What if the world was ending? What if everything you knew was about to be washed away, and what if only you had the instructions to survive? This is a story about a great flood, a giant boat, and a man who listened to God when no one else would. It is a story about a new beginning. Long, long ago, the world was a beautiful place. God had made it full of wonderful things, tall trees, sparkling rivers, and amazing animals. He made people to live in this beautiful world, to love him and to take care of everything. But something had gone terribly wrong. A deep sadness filled God's heart. The people God had made had forgotten him. They filled their days with mean thoughts and bad deeds. They were not kind to each other. They did not take care of the beautiful world. Instead, they filled it with fighting and shouting, with selfishness and hurt. It was as if a dark shadow had fallen over the hearts of everyone, making everything sad and broken. The world was no longer the happy place God had planned. It was full of chaos and noise, and the whispers of God's love were lost in the clamor. God looked down at the world he had made and his heart broke. But amidst all the darkness, God saw one small light. He saw one man who had not forgotten him. This man's name was Noah. Noah was a good man who walked with God and talked with God. He tried his best to live in a way that made God happy. While everyone else was busy with their own selfish plans, Noah was busy loving God and his family. He was a kind man in a world that had forgotten how to be kind. He was a listening man in a world that had stopped listening. God saw Noah, and a plan began to form in his heart. A rescue plan. God spoke to Noah. He told Noah about the deep sadness in his heart. He told him that he was going to wash the world clean, like a great big bath, to get rid of all the badness and start over. "But I will save you, Noah," God whispered. "You and your wife, your 3 sons and their wives." God gave Noah a very strange and very important job. It was a secret plan, a rescue mission. Noah listened carefully to every single word God said, his heart trusting the one who was speaking to him, even when the plan sounded impossible. God gave Noah the blueprints for an enormous boat. "Build a great ark," God said. "Make it out of gopher wood and cover it inside and out with tar to keep the water out." He told Noah exactly how long, how wide, and how tall to make it. It would be a huge boat, bigger than any boat anyone had ever seen. It would have rooms and decks and a big door in the side. This ark was not just a boat, it was a floating home, a safe place designed by God himself to ride the coming storm. Noah did not question God, he simply said yes. So Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, got to work. Day after day they sawed and hammered. Thump, thump, thump went the hammers. Swish, swish, swish went the saws. They worked from the time the sun came up until it went down. People would walk by and stare. They would point and laugh. "Look at Noah," they would shout. "He's building a giant boat on dry land. Has he gone mad?" But Noah did not stop. He kept on building because he was not listening to their laughter. He was listening to God's promise. His faith was stronger than their doubt. Then, the most amazing thing began to happen. As the ark was nearing completion, animals started to arrive. Not just a few, but all kinds of animals. Big ones and small ones. Tall giraffes and short armadillos. Lions with their big, fluffy manes walked peacefully next to gentle lambs. 2 by 2 they came, a male and a female of every kind of bird and beast and creepy-crawly thing. They weren't scared. They walked calmly toward the big wooden boat as if they knew it was their only safe place. They were following God's call, just like Noah. One by one, pair by pair, the animals walked up the long ramp and into the ark. The monkeys chattered, the elephants trumpeted, and the birds sang as they found their places inside the giant ship. Noah and his family guided them, making sure every single one was safely aboard. The ark was becoming a bustling, noisy, floating zoo. Finally, when the last 2 little mice had scurried inside, Noah and his family followed. God himself gently closed the giant door from the outside, sealing them all safely within. They were ready. They were waiting. For 7 days, Noah, his family, and all the animals waited inside the ark. It was quiet. Outside, the sun was still shining. The people who had laughed were still going about their days, not knowing what was coming. Then, on the 7th day, it happened. A single drop of rain fell, then another and another. Soon the drops turned into a drizzle, and the drizzle turned into a downpour. But this was no ordinary rain. It was a rain like no one had ever seen before. The sky turned dark gray and water poured down as if the whole sky was a waterfall. The rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights without stopping. But it wasn't just coming from the sky. Water also burst up from under the ground, from deep within the earth. Little puddles became big puddles became streams, and streams became roaring rivers. The water rose higher and higher, covering the fields, the houses, and the tallest trees. The people who had laughed at Noah were now filled with fear. They ran for the hills, but the water kept rising, covering everything. Soon the whole world was covered by a great, deep ocean. Inside the ark it was dark and noisy. The boat tossed and turned on the giant waves. The sound of the rain and the wind was deafening. The animals were restless and scared. But Noah was not afraid. he trusted God. Every day, he and his family moved through the ark, feeding the animals, cleaning their stalls, and speaking to them in calm voices. They cared for every creature, from the mighty lion to the tiny ladybug. Noah prayed, remembering God's promise to keep them safe. His faith was the anchor that held his family steady in the middle of the raging storm. The ark floated on the endless water. There was nothing to see outside but gray sky and gray water. Day after day, week after week, they floated. It was a long, lonely time. But even in the middle of the giant watery world, they were not alone. God was with them. He had not forgotten them. He was watching over his precious cargo, guiding the ark through the deep waters. Noah and his family held on to hope, knowing that the same God who had closed the door would, in his perfect time, open it again to a new world. After many months, the rain finally stopped, the wind grew quiet, and the water began to go down, little by little. One morning, the ark gently bumped against something solid. It had come to rest on the top of a mountain. Noah and his family felt the stillness. The rocking had stopped. Hope fluttered in their hearts like a tiny bird. Was it over? Was it time? Noah opened a window and sent out a raven, a strong blackbird. The raven flew back and forth, but it couldn't find a place to land. The world was still too wet. A week later, Noah sent out a dove. The dove flew and flew, but it too came back to the ark, for it could find no dry ground. Noah waited another 7 days. He sent the dove out again. This time, as evening came, the dove flew back to the ark, and in its beak was a freshly picked olive leaf, a green leaf. This meant that the water had gone down enough for the trees to appear. The world was coming back to life. Noah's heart filled with joy and relief. The long wait was almost over. A new world was waiting for them. Finally, God spoke to Noah again. "It is time," he said. "Come out of the ark, you and your family and all the animals with you." Noah opened the great big door. Bright sunlight streamed in, filling the ark with light and warmth. One by one, Noah, his family, and all the animals stepped out of the ark and onto dry ground. They took deep breaths of the fresh, clean air. The world was washed clean, quiet, and new. The first thing Noah did was build an altar. He thanked God for keeping his promise and for saving them. As Noah prayed, God put a beautiful, colorful rainbow in the sky. It stretched from one end of the new earth to the other. It was a sign from God. "This is my promise to you and to all living things," God said. "I will never again flood the whole world. Whenever you see a rainbow in the clouds, it will be a reminder of my love and my promise." The storm was over. The sadness was gone. It was the beginning of a brand new day, filled with the hope of God's unbreakable promise. A new world was beginning, painted with the colors of hope.